Also, following the press conference, I am filing a notice of intent to seek the death penalty.
The moment Tyler Robinson learned of his sentence, he broke his silence. For the first time, the 22-year-old pleaded with the judge for leniency, insisting he hadn't acted alone. He claimed he was ready to expose the person who gave the orders. But when he finally revealed the name, the entire courtroom froze in disbelief. Suddenly, no one knew what to believe. Inside the courtroom, Robinson sat motionless in his green anti-suicide vest, staring directly into the camera with a blank, almost chilling expression. Observers described his face as emotionless, detached, and disturbingly calm, an image that sent shivers down the spines of everyone watching. It was September 16th, 2025, and this virtual court appearance marked the public's first close look at the man accused of one of the most shocking political assassinations in recent American history. The 4th Judicial District Court in Provo, Utah, had never seen anything like it. Judge Tony Graff, presiding over what would soon become one of the most scrutinized trials in recent memory, called the case to order at exactly 3 p.m. Mountain Time. The hearing was live-streamed, drawing millions of viewers across the nation. What they saw would haunt many of them for weeks, not only because of the horrific crimes being detailed, but because of Robinson's unnerving lack of humanity as the charges were read aloud. Throughout the hearing, he sat perfectly still, posture upright yet slightly slouched, shoulders relaxed, hands hidden from view like a statue. His hair was cropped short but unkempt, his face clean-shaven, his presence strangely sterile. He showed no emotion, no sign of fear, no visible reaction. That is, until the moment his sentence was delivered.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Robinson. I'm Judge Graff. Mr. Scortis.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
The formalities began as they always do in American courtrooms, with the steady rhythm of legal procedure that has remained virtually unchanged for centuries. But there was nothing routine about what was about to unfold. Judge Graff explained that Robinson had been declared indigent. His reported annual income fell below $23,475, qualifying him for a court-appointed public defender. To require him to pay for legal counsel, the judge noted, would deprive him of basic necessities. On paper, it was a standard procedural note. In reality, it added to the haunting contrast. Here was a man accused of one of the most shocking political crimes in recent history, being treated not as a monster, but as a defendant with the same rights and protections as anyone else.
Mr. Robinson, you have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, the court can appoint an attorney to represent you.
The court provisionally appointed what's known as a Rule 8 qualified attorney, a designation reserved for capital cases where the death penalty may be on the table. These attorneys are required to file formal declarations with the court, outlining their specific qualifications to defend clients in cases where life itself hangs in the balance. Judge Graff made it clear those declarations must be filed before the next hearing, set for September 29th at 10 a.m. Then came the moment of introduction. The courtroom held its collective breath as Judge Graff asked the defendant to state his name for the record. Robinson leaned slightly forward toward the microphone. His response was chilling in its simplicity. In a flat, monotone voice devoid of inflection, emphasis, or even a flicker of humanity, he uttered just 3 words. Tyler James Robinson. It would be the only time he spoke during the entire hearing. And yet those 3 words seemed to hang in the sterile digital void, echoing between the courtroom and his jail cell. The contrast was jarring. Here was a 22-year-old man facing the possibility of execution, yet his demeanor carried no more weight than someone ordering a cup of coffee at a drive-thru. His face remained frozen in a mask-like expression, mouth set in a straight line. No smile, no frown, no pursed lip stuffing. Observers described it as a blankness so complete, it was deeply disturbing to watch.
Mr. Robinson, at this time, you will remain in custody without bail. Mr. Skordas, is there any other points that you wish to address?
No, thank you very much, Your Honor.
Then came the prosecution's turn. Utah County Prosecutor Chad Grainer rose to address the court, flanked by what he called a veteran team of some of the state's best trial attorneys, Ryan McBride, Lauren Hunt, David Sturgill, and Chris Ballard-Dott. It was the legal equivalent of bringing a cannon to a knife fight. The state was pulling out all the stops, making it clear they intended to pursue this case with maximum force. But before the heavy charges could begin, Grainer introduced an administrative matter one that carried enormous weight for the victim's family. The prosecution had filed a pretrial protective order on behalf of Erica Kirk, the widow of the slain politician. Judge Graff reviewed the motion and granted it, officially prohibiting Robinson from having any contact with her. For Erica, it was a small mercy in what promised to become a long and brutal legal battle, an early recognition that the court, at least in this moment, stood to protect her from further trauma.
Just for the court's information, we did file just recently, within the last few minutes, a notice of intent to seek the death penalty that was filed by Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray. So that should be in the court's file.
The state of Utah made it official. They would seek the death penalty for Tyler James Robinson. Prosecutor Grenander, backed by a powerhouse legal team, delivered the announcement with the weight of history before Judge Graff began reading the charges one by one, each more damning than the last. Count 1, aggravated murder, a capital felony carrying possible execution, life without parole, or a minimum of 25 years to life. Count 2, felony discharge of a firearm, alleging Robinson knowingly fired at Charlie Kirk, causing fatal injuries. Counts 3 and 4, obstruction of justice for hiding the murder weapon and destroying clothing tied to the crime. Finally, counts 5 and 6, witness tampering, accusing Robinson of pressuring his own roommate to stay silent. Together, the charges painted a chilling picture of premeditation, cover-up, and deliberate attempts to silence the truth evidence. The state argued that this was no crime of passion, but a calculated act of violence. The charges against Tyler James Robinson painted a chilling portrait of premeditated violence and calculated cover-up. Beyond aggravated murder, firearm discharge, obstruction, and tampering, prosecutors added a final count that carried immense moral weight: committing a violent offense in the presence of a child under 14, suggesting that young eyes may have directly witnessed Charlie Kirk's killing. As Judge Graff read through the charges, taking over 10 minutes to lay out the full extent of alleged crimes, Robinson sat motionless, expressionless, and detached, his demeanor described by body language experts as one of resignation, not defiance or fear. No clenched fists, no nervous tics, just a blank, hollow stare from behind a green suicide prevention vest. When the hearing closed, Robinson was ordered held without bail, with the next court date set for September 29th via WebEx. The entire proceeding lasted just 12 minutes, yet those minutes gave the public its first haunting glimpse of the man accused of assassinating one of conservatism's rising figures. The unsettling image Robinson, silent, unflinching, and seemingly disconnected as the death penalty loomed, ignited a firestorm on social media, with many calling him cold-blooded and empty, a face that would come to symbolize the chilling reality of political violence in 2025. September 10th, 2025, began like any other day for Charlie Kirk, the 31-year-old founder of Turning Point USA, as he prepared to address thousands of supporters at Utah Valley University during his America's Future tour. Under clear skies and mild September air, Kirk energized the crowd with his trademark passion and unapologetic defense of conservative values, unaware that his life would end within the hour. Surveillance cameras later revealed the chilling precision of Tyler Robinson's movements leading up to the attack, arriving at 11:50 a.m., scouting the grounds and deliberately positioning himself on a rooftop with a family-gifted bolt-action rifle. By 12:22 p.m., Robinson was prone, rifle assembled, and locked on his target. At 12:23 p.m., as Kirk was answering a final, tragically ironic question about mass shootings, a single shot cracked across the campus. The bullet struck Kirk in the neck, dropping him instantly, while narrowly missing others nearby. What followed was pure chaos, screams, panic, and desperate attempts to save Kirk as cell phones and cameras captured every horrifying moment. In a cruel twist of fate, a man who had dedicated his career to defending the Second Amendment had become a victim of the very violence he spent years decrying, marking one of the darkest moments in modern American political history. The aftermath of the September 10th shooting revealed a chilling blend of precision, ideology, and cold calculation. A UVU officer quickly identified the rooftop as the sniper's nest, finding gravel impressions where Robinson had lain prone, but by then the shooter was already executing his escape. Surveillance footage captured Robinson sprinting away with what appeared to be his rifle, and within minutes, damning text messages to his roommate sealed his fate. In them, Robinson admitted responsibility, directed his partner to find a handwritten confession hidden under his keyboard, and chillingly explained his motive. I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. The messages showed not just guilt, but methodical planning, discussing how long he had prepared, where the rifle was hidden, and even instructing his roommate to delete texts, refuse media, and stay silent with police, effectively trying to turn them into an accessory. Investigators later confirmed that Robinson had engraved bizarre memes and political slogans onto bullet casings, a disturbing fusion of internet culture and extremist ideology that framed his mindset. Meanwhile, Charlie Kirk was rushed to a hospital, but the shot to his neck proved fatal despite frantic efforts to save him. The campus went into lockdown, SWAT and local police launched a manhunt, and within hours, Robinson was back home, attempting to erase evidence-changing clothes, dumping incriminating items, and leaving behind a trail of digital and physical proof that investigators would quickly piece together. The nation, however, was already grappling with the devastating reality. One of conservatism's loudest voices had been silenced by political violence in broad daylight. The manhunt for Tyler Robinson stretched across 33 tense hours, mobilizing local, state, and federal agencies in one of Utah's most extensive investigations. Despite his attempts to cover his tracks changing clothes, discarding evidence, and instructing his roommate to stay silent, it was his own family who ultimately brought the pursuit to an end. Recognizing him in surveillance images released to the public, Robinson's parents persuaded their son to surrender peacefully. Yet even as the legal system prepared to hold him accountable, a darker and more disturbing question lingered. How had an ordinary 22-year-old from small-town Utah transformed into a political assassin? Robinson's background gave no obvious warning signs. Born in 2003 and raised in Washington City, he grew up in a conservative Mormon household. His father, Matt, worked in corrections, and his mother, Amber, was a social worker. Neighbors described them as loving, stable, and deeply rooted in traditional values. But cracks began to form in the year leading up to the shooting. Robinson grew more politically outspoken, leaning toward progressive causes such as LGBTQ+ rights, clashing bitterly with his father's conservative worldview. His romantic relationship with his transitioning roommate only deepened that divide, fueling ideological and personal tension within the household. Investigators later discovered Robinson's online life to be just as troubling as his offline struggles. He had logged thousands of hours on gaming platforms like Steam, not only playing mainstream titles but also immersing himself in fringe pornographic and niche games with disturbing themes. Federal agencies began combing through his digital footprint for signs of radicalization, noting how his online activities appeared to reinforce his alienation from family, faith, and community. The breaking point seemed to come during a family dinner when Robinson dismissed Charlie Kirk's upcoming Utah Valley University event as stupid and accused Kirk of spreading hate. To his family, it sounded like yet another heated political remark, but to investigators piecing together his mindset, it marked the culmination of months of anger, isolation, and obsession foreshadowing the decision that would ultimately end in tragedy. This tragic case of Tyler Robinson, the 22-year-old accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk, has shaken Utah and the nation, not only for the brutality of the crime, but also for the chilling transformation that led to it. From a seemingly ordinary upbringing in a conservative Mormon household to a rapid descent into political extremism, online radicalization, and personal turmoil, Robinson's journey reveals how isolation, ideological clashes, and toxic online spaces can converge into violence. The evidence against him, DNA on the murder weapon, incriminating digital footprints, and practice target boards, points to a meticulously planned attack rather than a moment of rage. His eventual surrender, negotiated by his parents and a family friend, highlighted both his fear of dying at the hands of police and his awareness of the consequences of his actions. Now, with Utah prosecutors pursuing the death penalty amid intense political and public pressure, the case has ignited national debates over capital punishment, left-wing radicalization, and the role of social media in amplifying violence. For Turning Point USA, Kirk's death has paradoxically fueled a surge of support, with his wife, Erica Kirk, stepping into leadership and rallying a strengthened conservative youth movement. As Robinson awaits trial, the outcome will not only determine his fate, but also leave lasting implications for America's struggle with political violence and its roots in both ideology and digital culture.